Hello, everyone. Welcome to the Monday Lunchtime Digest for January 5th, 2026. Happy Monday, Haley.
Happy Monday, Micah.
Hey, so a lot is going on in the world right now, but you know what? We focus on Oklahoma mental health. So we're not going to talk about all the things that are going on in the world, but just to kind of focus on what's happening here in our backyard. So we have a lot of things that are happening here in our backyard. So just to share a few of them. So here in the headlines today, this is from City News, which is affiliated with the Associated Press, and they announced that Oklahoma has landed this funding for rural health care. And so this is a really good article. It's been posted on our feed, on our Facebook feed, that outlines what specifically these funds are going toward. And if you'll look at it and see that none of it is specifically toward mental health. And here's another link to a press release that is this Oklahoma Rise 25. They're this nonprofit think tank that helped to get those funds. And so here's a nice graphic here of what those things are going to. But again, nothing specifically for mental health. So as you hear about these rural healthcare funds, don't get too excited and thinking about mental health. Now, of course, we hope that as these are going toward rural hospitals and helping them, helping their infrastructure and things like that, obviously we hope that some goes to mental health, but just nothing is specifically tagged for mental health that I understand at this time. Haley, what's kind of, have you heard anything about this rural health fund that we recently acquired?
No, I haven't heard anything that's particularly earmarked towards rural mental health either. Like you said, hopefully with some of this funding going to hospitals, that will, in maybe an indirect way, fund some mental health services. As somebody who was raised in rural Oklahoma, there has always been just a lack of mental health services in general. I remember whenever I was in, I think it was my freshman year of college, I was interning with the only psychiatrist that in Elk City. He was the only psychiatrist in Elk City, and he was the only psychiatrist between Amarillo and Oklahoma City at that time. Mm. And whenever he retired, I think it was back in 2015, 2016, then there's no more designated just psychiatrists out in the state, Western Oklahoma at that time. And so it's very much underserved. Of course, we had in 2019, there was a lot of funding cuts to rural hospitals in general, which led to a lot of hospital closures right before the pandemic. And so it's not just that mental health care has a need, but healthcare in general in rural Oklahoma has this need. And so hopefully this does address some of that healthcare need. And like you were saying, Micah, hopefully it inadvertently funds some of the mental health side, because that's very important as well.
Yes, yes. And, I know that there are people that are kind of on both sides of this. This funding comes as part of the One Big Beautiful Bill that came out last year. And so, of course, there's people that says that with the changes that have been done, this is really just a drop in the bucket to provide what these rural hospitals need, and that a lot of them are going to end up closing because of Medicaid cuts. But at any rate, no matter where you kind of land on this is good news. Anytime that we get funding for something, it's at least good news. And then people who follow this more closely can kind of sort through all the details about where is this actually a net positive after everything is said and done. So at any rate, these are posted there in the Facebook feed for you to be able to look over. The other thing is just looking at this article from the Daily Oklahoman that was sent out last week, but they talked about how there's already 100 new laws have been proposed. So the new legislative session starts February 2nd, and legislators have until January 15th to propose their legislation for this next session. And so if you remember, we have our legislative tracker. It's not currently up on our Oklahoma Counseling Institute website yet, but that's something that in the past we've done, is just trying to track all the legislation that affects mental health. And we will be, again, doing that this year. I know OCA has their I don't know if I'd call it a task force, but their group, their legislation group that is also following legislation closely. So now there seems to be more eyes on mental health bills that may be coming our way, which is great that we have more people that are watching this and advocating that we get the type of bills passed that are helpful for us and not harmful. And of course, as we all know, the one that we'll definitely be looking at is the sunset bill that the Oklahoma Board of Behavioral Health is scheduled to sunset unless we have legislation that renews it. And of course, this is kind of semantics. I know some people say, well, it's already sunset, blah, 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 blah. But long story short, to make sure that legislation is signed that keeps Oklahoma Board of Behavioral Health running. And hopefully we will see that this legislation session. And I know, Hayley, you talked to Mike Osborne, who was one of the major ones that put a stop to that last year, who just almost practically guaranteed that it would be signed this year. He saw no reason why it wouldn't continue. So we are going to take our representative, at least he's in my district, my representative. He may not be other people's representatives listening to this, but take him at his word that we will get that signed and that we will be able to continue business as usual rather than having some big abrupt change with that. So, Hayley, what are your thoughts about all the legislation that's being proposed, all the bills?
So I think that this is a good time to remind folks that, even though a bill has been introduced, doesn't necessarily mean that it's going to be passed. It is really good idea to, keep an ear or keep an eye on those bills that you're interested in. And remember to contact your legislators. Your legislators absolutely do take your opinion seriously. I think we had mentioned, back in October, we were talking about, the studies that were being done. When it comes time for your lawmakers to vote for or against a bill, they have a screen that is on their desk that shows how many of their constituents have called in and said they are for this bill or they're against this bill. And so if there is a bill coming up that you're worried about, that you have strong feelings about, that you want to be approved, that you want to be voted down, it is very important for you to call your lawmaker and let them know what your opinion is, because that is tallied and they do see in front of them right before they vote how many of their constituents are for and against this. And so keep an eye out, follow our legislation tracker once we have that up. Send us an email, hello@edmondcounseling.com, if you'd like to be alerted of our upcoming town hall and our upcoming legislation tracker and any articles that we have posted about legislation. But in the end, make sure that you are staying informed and bugging those lawmakers.
Yes, yes. And, to that point, at a meeting last year, the new lobbyist for the Oklahoma Counseling Association, he was asked if the lawmakers, the legislators, if they really pay attention to social media. And his response was some do and some don't. And so this way that you said, by calling or emailing, and if you're not comfortable, if you've talked to enough people during the day that you don't want to talk to one more person, even just calling after hours and leaving a message on their voicemail, that those will, as Hayley says, get added to their display, that whenever they are making a vote, that it will be right in front of them. And I don't think that social media falls on that. I think it's actual a phone call or an email that ends up on that.
Yeah.
So definitely want to keep an eye on what's going on and then take action, make our voices heard for this next session.
Absolutely.
And then the other thing I found interesting, Hayley, is just looking at the Autism Foundation of Oklahoma. They recently launched an endowment fund to support long-term services. And the thing that I found interesting in reading this article is that they work with people with autism that are all ages. And that's something that I did not know until recently reading this article. So in my mind, I knew, young children, I knew teenagers, but to think that it's, people suffering from autism that are older, young adults or middle age, they say throughout the lifespan. So if you have a client or a family member that could benefit from these services, then certainly reach out to them and just see what types of resources that they can connect you with, what they can provide, regardless of how old the person is that is dealing with autism. So great for them that they're able to continue to move forward and to serve and help more people.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So Hayley, what have you found?
So I have an interesting study that came out of the University of Bath. And so according to the study, this looked at folks with ADHD, and it was a study that examined 200 adults. So it was a self-report inventory where they had folks with ADHD not only identify what they feel like their top strengths are, but how much they feel like they rely on those strengths and what their mental health looks like afterwards. And what they found was that out of all the strengths inventory, ADHD folks were more likely to say that hyperfocus, that is concentration on areas of interest, their humor, creativity, spontaneity, and intuition were their top 5 strengths. And what the researchers found was that those who identified using those strengths very often, feeling very connected to those strengths, or identified those as strengths, had a statistically significant higher quality of life and lower levels of anxiety, depression, and stress. And so we had a couple of researchers from the OU Child Study Center, Dr. Amy Bax and Tabitha Fleming, do a training for us a couple of years ago on ADHD across the lifespan. So even though they work with child studies, they actually did a training that looked at ADHD all the way up to adulthood. And there's a very big overlap between ADHD symptoms and depression symptoms in adults especially. And so, and there's many reasons for that. One, ADHD is very stigmatized. If someone has ADHD, it's often, it is a chronic mental health condition, but, it's seen as something that needs to be fixed. It's seen as something that needs to be changed, when really there are a lot of strengths that can be drawn from ADHD. I mean, think about that hyper focus, that if they get really interested in something and they are able to, problem solve, they're able to use that creative strength to overcome things, or that spontaneity can really help with creativity or problem solving or just engagement with others. And so looking at not only what folks' strengths are, but how can we draw strengths from our ADHD diagnosis? I can definitely see how that can be a huge protective factor against, mental health concerns like depression or anxiety and stress. But what are your thoughts, Micah?
Oh, absolutely. And I think we could probably sit here and talk for the next hour about how, ADHD is largely a social construct, and not saying that there's definitely changes in brain and things like that. I mean, obviously there's an physiology aspect there, but this idea in our society that certainly in schools that a kid should sit there and focus on a screen if they have a laptop, or focus on the teacher and just sit there the whole time, or as an adult should sit and do office work and focus and focus and focus. Whereas, if we were talking, probably even a few just hundreds of years ago, but thousands of years ago, I'm not an anthropologist, but looking at someone who had ADHD, that had those skill sets, that may be like the most wonderful warrior and valued in their society, because their society is structured differently than the way our society has this expectation that people should just be able to sit there and focus and do. And so that's too bad. That's unfair. But I think, going back to your point, the research that shows letting these people recognize what their strengths are, and then be able to find ways to apply these strengths, as opposed to they're at deficit for some reason. Now their brains are just different, and has other strengths and other weaknesses, as we all have our strengths and weaknesses. So yeah, that's fantastic. Thank you for finding that.
Absolutely.
Yeah. So what's going on at OCI?
So many things, Micah. So many things. My goodness. And so we are releasing new courses every week. Just a few days ago, we released our latest course with Rabbi Shlomo Slatkin, which is working with couples experiencing infidelity. That is now available on demand on our website, along with over 80 other on-demand CE courses. So we have over 240 hours of CEs in our catalog now. We'll be adding about 16 more hours over the next couple of weeks or so. And so if you are wanting to get a head start on your CEUs for the June renewal season, or even for December, please go to counselinginstitute.org today to register. That being said, we are only 16 days away from the end of our early bird registration for the Summer Super Summit. And so our Summer Super Summit is set to take place May 6th, 7th, and 8th of 2026. That is this year. And if you attend all 3 days, you can earn all 20 hours of CEUs, including your ethics, your supervision, your strength-based, your addictions counseling specific, and more. We have a fantastic lineup coming up. I know I'm biased because I helped put it together, but I think it's our best lineup yet. I know I say that every year, but we're getting better and better. But that lineup will be introduced at the end of the month. Early bird registration will end on the 20th. And so go to counselinginstitute.org today, become a member, and save over $100 on registration for all 20 hours of CEUs. You can also choose to attend for 1 day, 2 days, or all 3 days. Just go to counselinginstitute.org to learn more. We also have a couple things coming up. So this week we have our monthly Whimsical Wednesdays. And so Whimsical Wednesdays is a time for mental health therapists to get together, to have fun, to unwind, to relax, and to connect. And so this month's Whimsical Wednesdays is going to take place at Good for a Few down in Oklahoma City. We're just at 718 Broadway in Oklahoma City. And that is going to be this Wednesday, January 7th from 6 to 7:30 p.m. A slight adjustment in time. We had beforehand been meeting at 5:30, but we found a lot of folks weren't able to make it until after 6, just because of schedules, because of Oklahoma City traffic. And so from now moving forward, we're going to try moving our meeting to 6 o'clock. So come for the whole hour and a half, stay for just a few minutes, drop by on your way home from work, whatever works best for you. We would just love to see you. But come join us for some games, for some conversation, and maybe even have a chance to win a free continuing education course with the Oklahoma Counseling Institute. So I'm excited for that. You're going to be there too, Micah, right?
Yes, I'm excited for that too. Yes, I will definitely be there. And this is the first Wednesday of every month is where we have a Whimsical Wednesday. And it's always fun to see where we end up going next. Being an old person that's not very exciting, getting stuck in that rut of just going to work and then coming home and being able to find these really neat places. We've gone to some really fun places just to get out and then meet with other mental health professionals and just relax and talk shop or not talk shop, just to be able to be with other people for a little bit. So had a great time meeting with people who have been coming and getting to know them better. So come join us this Wednesday at Good for a Few. We hope to see you there.
Hope to see you there. I think the last thing that I have for OCI right now, Micah, is that we are hiring a part-time position, aren't we?
Yes, we are.
And so we are hiring for the position of an education assistant. And I thought I had a banner up here, but I can't find it now. So our education assistant position would be helping me with all things OCI. And so they'd be helping with our on-demand trainings, be helping us with editing, helping us with customer service, helping us with our in-person events, and more. And so because I cannot find the banner that I made, I will encourage you to send me an email, hello@edmondcounseling.com, or shoot me a text 405-440-3034. There it is. Counseling. There's the counseling or edmondcounseling.com/jobs. You can find the job description there. You can find the job description there. Send me an email. Shoot me a text if you'd like the job description, or if you'd like the application. If you know of anyone who might be a good fit, make sure to send them our way.
Yeah, so we are excited. Apply for that job and come help us out with OCI, all things OCI. And this is a part-time position. It is a high school diploma, bachelor's degree preferred. And so if you have a family member or yourself, if you want to look at applying for this position, but it is not a mental health position, it is to be able to help with our OCI stuff. So we'd love for you to be able to check that out.
Yes. So that's what we have with OCI. Do we want to talk about what's going on with ECPD, Micah?
Sure. So a lot going on at Edmond Counseling. So, we have our free support groups that are going. We have our chronic pain support group. We have Smart Recovery. We have Smart Family and Friends. And then we also are recently getting ready to start our relationship loss and divorce support group. So these are for people who are going through the loss of a significant relationship, are currently going through a divorce, or on the other side of divorce. A lot of these groups are for people after they've completed divorce, but this is for anyone that's going along that path. And so that will be starting here in the next couple of weeks, and it is a free group as well. So whatever you think of, maybe someone that could use a support group of some sort, just go to edmondcounseling.com, look up our free support groups and see if we might be a good fit for them. There's nothing that they need to do except just show up. And these are in person and online. So if they're not able to drive in for whatever reason, then they can just go to our website, find the link to that group, and then attend online. But so far we have, let's see, I'm trying to think, family and friends that happen on Wednesdays, Smart Recovery that happens on Thursdays, chronic pain on Tuesdays, and then our relationship loss group is going to be on Thursdays. And so getting our week full with free support groups. So we would love to be a resource for you.
Absolutely. And as Micah said, go to edmondcounseling.com and select our support groups tab. And you can find all that information there.
Yeah, fantastic. So Hayley, who is our winner for this week?
Our winner is, drum roll please, Prudence Watson. Yay, Prudence.
Hey, congratulations, Prudence. So what did Prudence win?
So Prudence has won a free on-demand training with the Oklahoma Counseling Institute.
Hey, congratulations, Prudence, on winning that free training. And you can reach out to Hayley and just let her know which one of the over 80 courses that we have in our catalog that you would like added to your account and be able to take that for free. So, how did she win that, Hayley?
So she won by liking and commenting on last week's post. And so if you'd like to be like Prudence, you'd like to be entered into next week's drawing, you can do one of three or all three things. You can like this post, you can share this post, or you can comment your answer to today's question. Every time you do one of those three things, not only do you help us grow, you help us be seen by others, we also get entered into the drawing for next week's prize. And so that being said, being that today is National Bird Day, I want to ask you all, what is your favorite bird? I know that a lot of birdies have migrated for the winter, but according to the folks I follow at Martin Nature Park, there's still a lot of activity in the woods right now. And so my favorite bird is a wren. And I love them because my father-in-law has made me some birdhouses out of gourds that hang under my porch. And I have little families of wrens that nest up in there in the spring. And so I got to get them cleaned out because they'll probably be showing up here in about 6 weeks or so. What about you, Micah? What's your favorite bird?
Well, I'm going to do a quick little segue here for up here in Edmond at Arcadia Lake. They had Eagle Watch, which is this past weekend, January 2nd, 2026. And so if you still go out there to Arcadia Lake, there's a good chance that you can see a bald eagle out there. So that's always really neat and fantastic. I saw one actually in a tree in my backyard. This was a few months ago. It was wild just to see it sitting there. They're huge. But as far as my favorite bird is a bluebird. And there's a thing in our family that comes from my wife's side of her family, where if you find a bluebird feather, then it means that you're on the right path. And so usually as we're kind of like running through our mind about all the things that we should do or whatnot, if you look down, you find a bluebird feather, the lore is that means that you're on the right path. So anyway, a bluebird would probably be my favorite bird then.
Oh, that's so special. I love that.
Yeah. So we'd love to hear what your favorite bird is. So put that in the comments, like and share. And every time that you do that, then you'll be entered in to win free continuing education.
Yeah, so thank you all so much for your support and attending our live trainings and attending our on-demand trainings and watching these videos and liking, sharing, subscribing. We hope to see you Wednesday at our Whimsical Wednesdays and we'll soon again at one of our trainings. So thank you for your support.
All right. Thank you, everyone. We'll see you next time.